Okay, yeah, me too.
Order. There's discussion about Catalina. Gonna have to get the Capitola. Yeah, okay. It's 7, actually, technically it's 7:03 p.m. and the board is reconvening to open session. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Wells.
Here.
Trustee Lee.
Here.
Trustee King is absent. Vice President Marquez.
Here.
President Weekly.
Present. All right, we are reconvening here in open session. In closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, the board reviewed the performance of the superintendent. And also during closed session, the board consulted with the district regarding classified union negotiations with CSEA Chapter 5, Redwood City. The board took action in closed session by unanimous vote to adopt the neutral fact finders report issued on June 3rd, 2026 regarding the reduction in hours of classified librarian positions. This report recommended the district's last best offer as a settlement of those negotiations. The fact finder report is available to the public and copies are here tonight. Since the impasse process has now been exhausted, the district will, as allowed by law, implement the recommended reduction in hours on the first workday in August of the 2026-2027 work year for affected employees. The district will continue to meet its legal obligation to negotiate the effect of this reduction in hours should CSEA request to do so. All right, bienvenidos a todos. Welcome everyone to the public session for the June 10th, 2026 meeting of the Redwood City School Board. Our interpreter will now give instructions for how to access translation.
Buenas tardes, si necesita interpretación español, por favor llame al número gratuito 978-990-5137 y presione el código de acceso 837-7041 y el número o el símbolo de gato. Si está presente, puede obtener unos audífonos y un receptor en la parte posterior de la sala. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Just so all participants are aware, at the direction of the board, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared with the public. We generally try to post our meeting videos on YouTube about a day or two after. Tonight, we've got our audit of Measure S and Measure T bond spending. We'll get a report out from our key nonprofit partner, the Redwood City Education Foundation. We'll be receiving our last school report and SIPSA approval from Henry Ford. We'll call for an election of 2 of our trustees as per statute, and there are a variety of other procedural items. The board encourages all members of the public to participate and provide comment on issues of concern regardless of whether or not they're on the agenda. If you're here in person, please fill out a speaker card. You don't have to give your legal name, but if you would like for us to follow up with you, please consider adding contact information. If you're online with Zoom, you can just raise your hand and we will call on you based on your Zoom name. If you're speaking on a topic on the agenda, you'll be called at the time that item is being considered. If it's not on the agenda, we will call on you in the public comment portion near the beginning of our meeting. To be fair to all speakers, comment is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise noted. You'll see a countdown clock at the front of the podium. As a reminder, anytime a public comment is on an item not on the agenda, the board will be unable to take action or comment on the matter. All right. Are there any changes to the agenda? Nope. All right. Seeing none, can I ask for an approval of the agenda?
I move for the approval of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We now move to public comment. Do we have any comment cards?
No public comments.
Nothing online either? Okay. All right. Union comment. Do we have any union representatives who would like to present? Do we have Brenner or Maria online? Yep, said no. Okay. All right. Okay. Number 10, we are now going to approve our bond consent items. As a reminder for members of the public, consent items are the ones where we approve a group of items in one go that are considered unlikely to be objectionable or need discussion. Can somebody please move that we approve our bond consent items?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Great, very good. And we're now on to reports. 12.1. Our first report is on our audits of our Measure S and Measure T bond funds that can only be used for facilities work. We're grateful to taxpayers for supporting the district in this way, and we take stewardship of these funds seriously, which is why we have an independent third-party auditor annually audit our use of these funds. We will now be hearing about the audit results.
Joining us tonight is Nathan Edelman from E. Bailey to present the audit reports for both Measure T and S, as President Weekly noted.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. You can skip to the next slide, please. But my name is Nathan Edelman with Eid Bailey. I am the independent external auditor. I did meet with your CBOC, I don't know, a couple months ago, a month ago. I don't remember when it was now. We went over the results of the audit with them as well, with that bond oversight committee. Same presentation. I'm going to try to keep it a little more high level. Of course, I'm happy to go into anything that the directors would like. Audit is as of the June 30, 2025 fiscal year. Bottom line, audit results are what is on this screen here, which is what you want. This is the good audit results, which really means that, well, there, as it says here a few times actually, there were no findings. I'll talk in a second about what it is that we looked at. When I say no findings of what, but in terms of the accounting records, there are no findings with respect to that. There were no findings, no deficiencies, no internal control deficiencies regarding what's probably more important to folks here, which is the actual usage of the Measure S and Measure T bond funds. And if you go to the next slide, please. When I say no findings, this is kind of the scope of the audit, what it is that we looked at. And the state says when you go into these school districts, this is what you look at. And so the state kind of defines the scope in that sense. But on a high level, it's make sure that one, the accounting records of each of those bond funds, so Measures S and T, they're separately identified from the school district. From those accounting records, we then pick samples of what was funded, what was charged to those bond programs, and it's ask questions, it's get support, get the source documents, there's invoices, there are contracts related to every expenditure. Make sure that it sounds a little simple, but make sure that they are real expenditures, make sure that they're correct, and really what's more important, those bond programs are highly restricted and what can be charged to those things. And the audit's question is, is every expenditure that we look at, is that allowable for Measure S? Is that allowable for Measure T? And if the answer was no, then those show up as audit findings. And as I said on the prior slide, there were no findings. So that's good. Next slide, please. It's just high level in terms of the methodology. Audit works on a sample basis. We have access to, and every transaction that is charged to the bond funds is equally likely to be selected. And there's some, a little bit of magic that goes into there, but really it's pick a sample, look at all of the, we'll call them large expenditures. When you have construction, there's typically a few large expenditures, and then there's a sample from everything else. And it's, like I said before, it's get invoices and make sure that those are allowable for the bond program. To the extent that there's any salaries charged to the bond program, we also need to ensure through, it could be talking with folks, just what it is that they're doing, HR records, but make sure that any salaries that are charged to the bond program have a direct nexus to the bond program. Next slide, please. Yeah, and probably won't go into this in quite so much as I went in with the CBOC, but really there's also a financial statement audit. It is as of June 30, 2025. It becomes the official records of the monies in and monies out for the bond program. Monies coming in for these bond programs is not, it's interest income and it's the bond sales, so not the most exciting. Monies coming out is the actual usage, the construction, and that's what gets selected in the performance audit to ensure that those are allowable uses. Next slide, please, which I believe. And there are audit standards require certain other communications, things beyond the opinions within the reports. And those are things about if there were difficulties conducting the audit, if there were delays, there could be what we call uncorrected misstatements, which would be things that are not material, but we still need to report those to the board. Happy to report the stuff that's on this slide is kind of no, none, no. So happy to report there really is nothing required to be reported beyond the standard audit opinions, which is, again, that's what you want. And I believe that's the last slide. So with that, I'm happy to, if there's any questions, happy to try to respond or try to answer those as best I can. But thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Fellow trustees, do you have questions about the audit?
I don't have questions. Thank you for the presentation. And thank you for the work that you do. And again, thank you for the business office and their work, because I know that you're here probably for an entire week or two gathering information from everybody. So I appreciate the fact that there was no fact findings. So thank you so much.
I echo what Cecilia said. Appreciate it. And again, also for presenting to the CBOC a month ago, I think it was. It's a good review. It really brought them up to speed. That's what their annual report's going to be on, is on the audit and the findings from it. So we'll be seeing that at some point in the months ahead. So thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. I was mildly amused to read online a comment from somebody, they're spending taxpayer dollars. We should have like a third-party auditor go through and make sure that all the money's being spent appropriately. And I was like, great idea. So nice work. Cool. Thank you. Sweet. Okay, we're on to 12.2. The district has a very special partner in the Redwood City Education Foundation. It's a 501c3 charity whose goal is entirely aligned with the district's. These kinds of partnerships are extremely helpful for ensuring the needs of our most vulnerable students can be addressed so they can thrive. Oh, Mike. No, you got to push the button to turn it red. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. We're here. Hello, everyone. Hello. Nice to see you all. You want us to go ahead and start?
Sure, yeah. Thank you all for having us. I am Florence Ortiz, the Executive Director of the Redwood City Education Foundation. I am also a alum of the Redwood City Schools. I attended 3 of our many schools here. And yeah, I've been with the organization for about five years, and so I've had the experience of growing up here, but then seeing coming back and seeing firsthand like the kinds of supports that that our educators and our community members both give and what students receive. And so it's a big part of why I'm here and why I try to bring more opportunities for our students.
Awesome. My name is Lily Milton. I am the chair of the board. I've been on the board for, I think this is going to be my 3rd year, and I'm so passionate about the Education Foundation. We're super excited about tonight. This is, I think, it's been a while since the Education Foundation has come to present. There's many new board members. RCF has been through like a really big transition, in the last 8 years. So this is the fruition of just lots of conversations with Dr. Baker and Trustee Weekly about how we can really kick off a strong partnership in the next year. We're really excited to see Dr. Rubalcava here, and we wanted to just really quickly, briefly introduce, before we have a short presentation, but wanted to just introduce some of our board members just to get a sense of sort of who's the team behind Florence. Florence and her leadership team really drive all the work, and then we have our board members who are supporting. So I'm going to ask them real quick to stand up and say their names. Okay, go ahead. Just like I wasn't prepared.
Jen Brinkley, Assistant Treasurer. I have 2 children in the district.
Thank you.
Hi, Zoe Hunton. I have 2 children in the district.
Hi, Victoria Goncharova, also 2 children in the district.
We're going to go in the back.
Crystal Murray, I have a child in the district. I'm Claudia Ortiz. I have 2 kids not in the district.
And a long time district.
I love the district.
Love the district. Yeah. So we asked everyone to come out just to sort of demonstrate we're just how excited we are to sort of bring the board members on along with this partnership. And we're going to be asking, a lot of the board members exchange conversations throughout the year. So thank you for allowing us to introduce all of ourselves. Okay, next slide. So we're going to give you a little bit of just kind of a reintroduction to RCF. Some of this is familiar. We've had some really close conversations with some of the trustees, so you're kind of up to speed. But just who we are and why we exist. Our mission is to cultivate community resources to promote equitable education, reduce barriers to engagement, and increase the academic performance of underserved students. That is a new mission. We started, 1983 after the Proposition 13 really gutted the school system funding, and the community got together and said, we need to fill the gaps. That's really how education foundations got started all over the state. And that, I think, really, the community really rallied around that for a really long time. In the later years, in the 2000s, was really focusing on music education for all the schools. And really by the end of the, in kind of the 2010s, the community was feeling like it wasn't doing enough. So the amount that the money that was raised to go to all the schools ended up being quite small. It was really led mostly by parent volunteers who come in and out, as you all know, and there really wasn't an infrastructure or a backbone to really grow the effort. So a group of leaders, and Florence was also there at the beginning, really came together and said we need to bring an equity focus to our work. Like if we're really talking about make a difference in education, we need to really make direct investments to the places where it's needed most, as opposed to like a blanket. Like that's sort of the antithesis of equity, is when you just give everybody the same amount and hope for a different result. So we've been super excited about that effort. It hasn't been easy to bring that message out and explain to people why we do what we do, because it is different from a lot of education foundations, but we're very proud of it. Now in 2026, we're investing in mental health, academic support, enrichment, family engagement, and advocacy. Next slide. Okay, so this is a lot of words, but basically RCF supports student success by investing in the students and strengthening the educational opportunities across Redwood City schools. Through advocacy, community engagement, RCF brings additional resources to programs and initiatives to help students achieve strong outcomes. So really putting all of that together, and we're really focusing on the most under-resourced schools first. We want to help those schools become resourced. We want all the schools to become thriving, and our goal is really to support all schools in Redwood City. Next slide. So this is just a slide we like to show to a lot of our families. We actually go around to the PTOs at the beginning of the year and show this slide so people can really understand the disparities in Redwood City. You all are very familiar as trustees, as leaders, but I have 6,500 students. 62% qualify as socially economically disadvantaged, and 34% are English language learners. And then we see at Hoover, Garfield, Taft, and also McKinley that we have around 2,000 students, and 96% of them meet that qualification of socioeconomically disadvantaged, and 52% are language learners. So right there, you just see the starkest disparity, where while we have a diverse representation of need in the city, it's really concentrated in these 4 schools. Next slide. And again, just to say why we prioritize these schools, 1 in 4 students is attending these schools, and they have the highest rate of disadvantaged students in the district. And then we also always like to point out, we do this also for our parents in the hills and on the west side of town, just to show that it's not an accident that the disparities are the way that they are. So there's long history of institutional racism that sort of sets this all up, and so we're not. We recognize that the present day we're working to kind of dismantle all of those components.
Can I add something there?
Please.
Yes. Sorry, can we go back there? Thank you. Yeah, so you see nearly half of our students that are socioeconomically disadvantaged reside in these 4 schools. And so that's how we envision, like, as we're approaching and scaling in how we support students with the most need across the district, this was a clear indicator of like, okay, if they are here, if nearly 50% are here, this is how we build supports.
Right here. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I'm next.
You're next.
Okay. Yeah. So, and some of you have already experienced this. This is too tall.
Sorry, I had to move out because I didn't want to.
So RCF has changed from necessarily just sharing, okay, this is what we want to do. We like music. We love that kids do music. Let's just do music, to going out and being really intentional with who we talk to, with educators, with parents, with district leaders as well, and students, and hearing what are the needs that are not currently supported or enough. Where are the biggest gaps between what the school district's resources are and the needs of our students? And so we believe that the people who are closest to that work are the parents and their families and the educators. So we really go through speaking with them and being present through cafecitos, parent universities, any chance that we can be engaging in the community, and that's on both sides, both the Bay side and the hillside. We want to be there. We want to be hearing from people and being responsive to their needs. So we've done a series of these, but most recently, starting this January, we did a bigger effort of having a community listening project. So we talked about 80 different stakeholders and really seeing where can we continue to build in next.
And that's underway, and there will be a couple more listening sessions this summer, and the results we're kind of looking at, and we're really excited to bring that back at a future board meeting and share with you all what we have learned.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so this one we've put it a little bit easier to see based on your kind of LCAP goals so that you can see where RCF and school district alignment exists. But really what we see with these programs is what we hear consistently from our parents and from our educators and school leaders over the years. We continue to see that families, and of course that's obvious, families want students to feel safe, to feel supported, challenged, and to feel successful in the classroom and outside of the classroom as they continue to grow and build their lives. And so what we also see here is education. Educators see their supports. We have a lot of like burnout, and being a teacher is a really tough job. And so we're trying to put in place things that can support the classroom wellness, keep it running. And so it really comes in with having wraparound services for in mental health, but also the behavioral health, getting, the academic supports, getting planning time and coaching times for the teachers so that they can have a break, connect with others, connect with their peers and become stronger, both the teachers being stronger in their profession and also the students being really ready to learn and being well when they're receiving instruction. So we've seen firsthand how these have made a difference, and we're happy to share that, when we're talking to our school leaders about all of these different programs, they see they see the impact, and we're happy to hear that. We also see from parents saying that tutoring is still, mental health is a huge need. That's like the number one. And then tutoring, there's big wait lists for tutoring at the schools. And even the kids are saying, I want to go to tutoring because my friends are there. And I want to be, moving up to the speed. They do want to see themselves being challenged, being cared for, and showing up as their best selves. And then finally, our parents have told us time and time again, which we're very happy to hear always, that they see changes in their students. They see them becoming more confident. They see themselves becoming more engaged into schools, and it also makes parents want to be more participative, and they want to know how to navigate the school system to be there for their kids, to help them be better learners and better people. So we see all of these different services, and they apply differently across the schools, but thankfully we have the same intention, the same impact to improving the conditions of learning and growing.
And I think one of the things we're really excited about for next year is how do we better align our strategies with the district priorities and vice versa. So that's we were able to say, okay, here are big, our, district goals and our interventions. We're glad that they match, but won't it be great when they are really closely aligned? So that's our goal for the future.
Next. Yeah, okay. And then as we've mentioned, we are a smaller organization when you think about our Education Foundation neighbors. And so that's why we focus on those schools with the greatest needs. But our intention is always to be a big district-wide support. And this year with what was it, the cuts, the
Medicaid cuts in the fall when the food insecurity, there's food insecurity panic, understandably.
Yeah. We came out, we supported the schools. We had about 320 SNAP benefits. Thank you. Yes. 320 families benefit from supports that we were able to place at at 7 of the community schools. And we also provide school supplies and stuff for school supplies and hygiene, stuff like that for educators and for parents in the school centers. Yeah. Oh, yes. And then Measure C. So that's kind of one of the ways that we want to support. It's like we're always looking for the opportunities to bring in more funding to students and to the school district, regardless of its, necessarily coming through us as well. We want to see good for our school district.
And we love to just show this visual of like what equity means. I think many people are familiar, really putting in the infrastructure in place, and even more when you get to the justice, where we're really like dismantling the system for more equitable.
Or establishing more support.
Establishing more support.
And next one,
Dismantle the
please.
system is what I wanted to.
Yeah.
No. Just kidding, just kidding.
All right. So as we're looking ahead, these are kind of an insight into what our investments will look like next year. So the 2026-27 school year, we have kind of gone into a bit of an increase there on academics. So you see previously our number one usually has been mental health for the last couple of years. And so here we have a bit of a boost more on the academic side. But each year, and we hope to grow it every year, we do about $500,000, a little over $500,000 in programs and services supporting our students and our families. Our goal is not just to fund programs, but it's also to help build a stronger system of support around the students and our families, and ensuring community voice is present and continues to inform our work and how we can show up and be good partners to you in the school district. So you see a bit of beyond the funding, we're always looking to be responsive with our partners and with our parents and anybody who is a stakeholder, a community member.
And we really want people to understand, right? It's really still a very small organization. $500,000 for this level of need really is not adequate. The neighboring foundations, multi-million-dollar organizations, a lot of our PTOs are, almost double in what they're able to raise within a year for their own site. So we know that this is not enough, and that's part of why we are really wanting to be thoughtful and intentional about bringing RCF more to the forefront and getting more community support around that culture of shared responsibility. We think Redwood City should really stand on its, on its school district and support it and support the students. And that's our vision for the future that we're going to continue to work towards.
Yeah, so we know that no organization can do this alone. So we're really, like Lily's saying, we really want to make a lasting impact. And so that requires collaboration, shared learning, and a collective commitment to our student success. And so that's what we want to do here. So we look forward to hearing your reflections, your questions, and ideas on how we can continue to be a stronger partner for you and families across the district.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you both for the presentation. Great to see both of you guys in person. I know we've met virtually, Florence, we've met several times. This is super helpful. I think I've known a little bit about the foundation. Great to see this more formalized and hear a little bit more about it. Lily, I think you read my mind. I have kind of two questions, and you kind of touched on both of them, but I'll ask them a little bit in more detail anyway. The first one is, I think you mentioned, I love that you aligned kind of the different efforts along with the 3 LCAT goals with the district, which is very helpful for me. I'd be curious to learn, and maybe it's also with Dr. Baber, just a little bit more about what the current collaborative model is in terms of how does RCF and RCSD collaborate to better understand where there's room for coordination, or how does that currently work? And then thinking about Dr. Rubalcaba coming forward, is there a vision of other is there ways to strengthen it that you envision, or just would love to hear a little bit more about that?
So currently when we did this change, we wanted to be really inside and really knowledgeable of the schools that we were supporting because we saw the need was there. So in the last 5 years, it's kind of become really, really strong partnerships with our schools and constant conversations and dialogue and hearing what are the needs there. And so in the last 2 years that I've come on, been a little more intentional of how do we branch it back out to the school district. And so I meet monthly with Dr. Baker, and we have these kinds of conversations. This is like by no means like the stop point, though. We want to continue to learn and continue to engage. And so we're open to see what other ways that we can partner and support across the district.
Yeah, we have like this vision I mentioned with some of the board members that when we can really like when we're all doing planning and we're thinking about, okay, where are we looking at into the future, like related to mental health or related to STEAM or related to literacy, that we can see where we can join efforts. And then maybe we're seeking funding together, or maybe we are seeing where we can fill in some gaps or things like that. So right now, I think it's been a lot of trust building. It's been a lot of relationship building. Florence and her team have done a really great job of connecting with the schools and having a great sense of the school need, and working with Dr. Baker really closely. And now we're excited for like kind of the next phase, which is when when the collaboration kind of kicks off, where you're like, okay, how are we working together? How are we like putting the building blocks? Now, I don't know if Dr. Baker wants to, yeah.
So David, what's really been essential is the monthly meetings with Florence, and Florence brings a lot of information to myself in regard to the school sites that she and her foundation are working with. And then we talk about the data. What does the data say on how they're utilizing the dollars and moving it forward? For especially when you're talking about the mental health piece, there are still students on a wait list, but the support that these schools are receiving from the foundation lessens that list quite a bit. The other pieces are the tutoring pieces that I know a lot of the principals along with parents are asking for their children, which is a big plus, which this foundation does move forward with. Those monthly meetings are really essential so that when I go back and meet with the principals, I can get a better understanding of where they are with the monies that are coming in from the foundation, and then talk to Anna about the LCAP and how can we take that money and make it even larger for those groups that are really needed. So these monthly meetings are definitely essential. And we're also moving in a direction where Florence and I have a meeting coming up where they're going to need some space, and we're going to provide some space at one of our school sites for them. And Rick and I have already been talking about that, so that you'll have that and you can store your things there and so forth. So that's one thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I sent you the email.
Thursday.
That we're talking about. So we really want to create that partnership with them to not only move us in a direction that we want to be, but their mission and their vision is definitely what we're doing, looking through an equity lens for everything. So I applaud them very much for going in that direction. So thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Hopefully, if that or some form of that continues, and I think Lily mentioned this, or it'd be great also I would love to continue having conversations, right? So it's not just ED to superintendent, but also that our boards are all on the same page, because I think as Dr. Baker mentioned, like clearly our missions are aligned. So just the ways that we can figure out to get there together. The second question I had was a little bit on the funding piece. This, one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent of the foundation. Obviously, the school district has a very limited set of levers to raise revenue. So anything that can help us on that front, like please, let's do it. And be curious to learn a little bit more about what the fundraising kind of strategy approach is for the fund, whether that's like individuals or grants or large whatever. I'm curious to know that mainly because I think, as you mentioned, the 600,000 is certainly not nothing, but I would love to like 10x it, if not more than that.
Yeah.
So I just don't know what the strategy is, but if there's ways that the board can also be supportive, and just thinking about, as you mentioned, other neighboring districts and the amounts that they're able to raise. Curious if you have a vision for what that might look like. And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe that's kind of the purpose of the study or the exercise that you've been engaging in, but I'll put that there.
Absolutely. So we do function in regards to our fundraising pretty differently to our neighbors, because we have the equity lens. We can, and our school district looks different from our neighbors. We can leverage more of the philanthropic dollars that are not accessible to a lot of our neighbors, probably with the exception of like Ravenswood School District. But that is a big part of our funding. Second comes in individual donations, probably tied with corporate supports, and we can get those through sponsorships or if they have large grants. Unfortunately, we do see changes in the corporate landscape, probably self-explanatory. And so that's where we're really getting creative on like, okay, how are we finding some individuals and possible like philanthropic dollars that can one believe in the work that we're doing and help us kind of bring it to the school district. So those are a big part. And then yeah, it's very one-on-one, very intentional. We would always love your support, having the experience and the knowledge you all have on this side, to partner with us and help us craft a more compelling case for support. I think it means a lot when we have a strong relationship, when we can count on each other. I think that has worked very well for school districts like Ravenswood, that has very similar demographics to the ones that we have in these four schools. So we want to explore how can we do that? How can we do that together? And if you're open, coming with us to meeting people and showing the expertise on that side, and we do the same thing with our principals and our educators so that they can show this is real. And we like to invite parents as well, but sometimes it's good to not expose them too much, and then be able to use all of you all as resources.
And just to add a little bit to that strategy, particularly with the philanthropic dollars, foundations, they write, especially today while all of the funding is really constricted, foundations want to see like systems change. They want to see, they don't want to just fund interventions. They want to see how are the interventions working to really achieve a more equitable environment, what's going to be the sustainability, all of that. So that's where we're really excited, like in this new landscape, to be like where it needs partnership. When we come to the table and we have a shared strategy around A, B, or C, that's going to be very compelling. And also similarly, like with working with our corporate partners, if we can leverage, the community engagement and do a little bit more across, there's a lot of corporate partners that are supporting all the schools, and like, could we have a little more of a coordinated effort so that we are getting the resources needed to the Education Foundation, and the other schools are also getting what they needed. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to go there.
Yeah, that's all great. Speaking only for myself, like, yeah, please let me know if there's things that it would be helpful for us to come to. I think we're very much on the same page of trying to get the same place. But thank you for all this.
Thank you.
Thanks again for the presentation. I do have a question. What you mentioned community listening sessions. What can you elaborate a little bit and explain what those are?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, since January, we've been doing a series of conversations to better understand the needs in the school district, and understanding what perspectives we're bringing in when we're talking about those needs. I believe all of the trustees were interviewed at the beginning portion, and so how we've done it was starting with our district leaders, and then our principals, our educators, then to our families, and so kind of building our understanding and information from that point, and then going towards what are we seeing at the heart of where the students and where the parents are. When we've done this change to the equitable lens and really hyper focusing on these four schools, we did lose a bit of that district-wide lens. And so that's part of what we've been wanting to rebuild when we did these listening sessions, particularly, well, we did with the principals and the teachers across the district. So it was not just these four schools, but it was really what is getting the lay of the land across all the schools, and understanding what are the different needs. What are there things that are just repetitive and true across the board that can be points of connection. And then on the other side, on the parent side, we really wanted to focus on how do we build more opportunity for parent voice for the parents who, when we talk about like the census, it's like hard to reach census count, we think about it a little bit in the same way with our parent voice in the school district. There are some that are a little bit harder to reach because there's, a series of circumstances. So we really wanted to go out and find those parents. And we did that through connecting with, for on one side, we had like our DLAC and going on, okay, the parents who are Spanish speakers who are already involved, and then kind of grabbing, it's like, okay, who are your 5 friends that we can, bring in here? And then going to the actual school district, okay, who is, especially in the community centers, like we're talking about, the family centers, who are they working with that maybe can bring in a perspective that we need to listen to, always respecting confidentiality. So when we do share out the resource or, our findings, we're not sharing names, but really just what it is that we're finding. So.
Great. And then of course I do see you guys and your tables are mostly all of the events downtown, so I appreciate that. And then the Community Advisory Board, that's new as of when and how did that initiate and who?
So we have not started that. That is
Okay.
part of like the phase 2 of this community listening project. So once we start compiling this, all of the findings, we'll have them towards the end of July. We'll start convening like, okay, who can form part of this advisory? Who needs to be at this table and start informing our work? And then they will also be informing how it is that we share these findings.
Great. And I do want to say, I mean, I appreciate all the fundraising efforts that you guys are doing to obviously support all of the students, especially those that have the barriers. And I know with one of your fundraising events that took place downtown, I know that Florence and I had kind of conversation to see like what should our CEF do to maybe bring in some of those parents from the Bayside, whether our CEF goes to the Bayside to then do some sort of event there and, have those parents collaborate. Of course, maybe the fundraising part, it's going to be a little bit harder, but at least they're engaged. And I mean, I know they've always been engaged, but just for them to feel that they're part of such things. And then I appreciate it. It was on a Tuesday night. So, and the past has always been on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we have board meetings on Wednesday. So that was really nice. Yeah, and I think that's all for me. Thank you so much.
And
Thank
just
you.
to say, we didn't this year, but the last couple years, RCF had hosted the Equity Summit, which was an opportunity to bring kind of community participation and really invite the Bayside schools to join and be part of the effort. And that was really lovely. Really right now, it's a bandwidth issue in terms of just staffing and really wanting to make sure like we can have these large community events and we want to get resources so that we can staff it. So
Actually, good thing that you mentioned that because I had written down, I don't know, and obviously I know I did get an invitation, but it was like 9 to 11. So like I know that's hard. And I'm just wondering, again, when we talk about parent engagement and we want those parents present, that might be kind of a rough time for people that, obviously work. So maybe just to keep that in mind for future, maybe we could, or you guys do one in the morning and one in the evening. Because again, that's always an issue, even for us as a school district, right? We have meetings in the evening, some in the mornings, and it just works different for some parents. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Florence and Lily, for presenting tonight and answering our questions. It's great to hear about just seeing the theory of change being put into action, the amount of work that you've done over the last 6 years, and just the amount of fundraising growth that you've had since 2020 has been, I'm really impressed. I think it's great work. I really appreciate the wanting to align with the district initiatives because that makes it a force multiplier as opposed to just an additive. And I think that'll make a really, really big difference. And I just, I want to recognize just how vital community partnerships are for the work in trying to close the opportunity gap. The district can't do it alone. One organization can't do it alone. And so having partners, our CF included, is just so critical in that work. So really appreciate the focus on it, the work that you've done, and again, for coming here and presenting tonight. Oh, and to your board members that are here, thank you so much for coming out and showing your support as well.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah, I'm also very, very grateful for the partnership that we have, and just RCF plays a really special role in helping to support our community. I'm curious about jurisdiction in terms of like when you would want to start taking on kids. I mean, so we've got pre-K, we've got TK, and then we sort of hand students off at after eighth grade graduation to the high school districts, right? But there's certainly a fair bit of evidence that the experiences that kids have from 0 to 5 actually make a big impact on how they enter into the school system and what kind of success they have in the school system. So I'm curious, is RCF interested in engaging in the 0 to 5? Do you already have programs there, or is that sort of out of bounds because the hope is to align with the student population of the district?
It's a mixed answer. So, when we first started the this theory of change and applying the equity lens, we really focused on the at that point it was kinder through eighth grade at 3 schools, so Hoover, Garfield, and Taft. As we've grown last year, we and then there was, the changes where it's like TK has now been added to the school district. So in that sense, we added on more students and like kind of increased a little bit of that age range. And then last year we added on McKinley. So as you know, we had those changes in the schools. A lot of our students were then that were supported at Garfield came into McKinley too, and we did see that that was kind of the next one on our priority list. And so we've expanded in that sense. We are still a smaller organization, and so while we're not going into the pre like the truly like the 0 to 4, we do hear that that is something that is interesting to the to parents and to educators, because they do say, okay, how students are showing up is a is how prepared they are for TK and kinder is going to have an impact on their success overall. And so where we see ourselves best applying there is just having more information about what resources are available to the schools and to the community outside of just purely like what we can fund. We did apply, and again, it was mainly capacity that we have not brought this back, but we did 2 years ago a TK Kinder Fair for incoming students to understand more of how the school district works, what are the different options and offerings, and how to be like involved and engaged on day one.
And in terms of expansion, our goal would definitely be to get across the whole district as sort of our first goal when we're talking about where we want to go. We know there's high need students at all the schools, and so that's kind of our big picture vision. And of course, if we solve, those problems, then we can all move to first, the 1-year-olds together. Yeah.
Got it. Clear answer on sequencing. Thank you. If RCF is wildly successful 10 years from now, what are some things that would be true? And in that future, what are some of the ways that your relationship with the district would have changed?
Love a miracle question. You
Oh, thanks. I love that, passing it on. So, when we're thinking about the future of RCF, we really want to see the gaps not just being filled, but decreasing. So we really want to partner with you all and stay informed. I don't think like we have all the answers. No one has all the answers. It really takes a collective approach and getting everybody's knowledge to put this together. But when we're talking about, we had that the visual of when we're talking about inequity to justice, we're bringing those systems gaps to a close. Like we're starting to bring in the infrastructure, and that takes a long time. As Lily said, there are things that exist outside of the school district. These are things that are historical, and really, when they exist outside the school district, they can be city and the history, the economics, the demographics of the families who are here today have had long history of impact, and so that takes a long time to work towards and to change. We want to focus on those kind of changes first, like how do we make it strong, like a strong place to live and a strong place for students to be educated here. So really, we're looking at those systems change. It does not, one of the other things that we hear, and it's just been, again, it takes time, is we do hear that our schools feel slightly, siloed or alone. They know, some people know people across the school districts, and it helps if your student happens to, if your two different students go to different schools and your community gets a little more, it's a little bigger. But across the district, we don't have enough families that can say, I'm a Hoover parent and I know parents at Clifford, and I'm a Clifford parent and I know parents at Henry Ford. And so those are things that I think make our school, when we're talking about the competitive of resources, because we're always looking for more. Those are one of the drivers, and that's one of the things that we want to help be like a convener for all the different schools in the district to come together. And how are we doing and showing up for each other, not just for our own schools. Again, that takes a lot of time.
It's a lot of time. I love what you reminded us about, like trying to just get out of the scarcity mindset in this time in this area. We're at the epicenter of just the scarcity mindset. And so I think 10 years from now, a vision is like always thinking about what we have in terms of abundance and what we can create. And some of like our models is like we love to look up to Ravenswood and how they have such an institutionalized partnership between the district and the foundation. So what they're able to make happen is really a model for us. We also like to look to our other neighbors like San Carlos, where there's so much passion and like kind of shared commitment in the Education Foundation. Everybody is a part of it. They do citywide events, and obviously San Carlos and Rainbow City are very different, but we do envision a place where there's like citywide pride in the school district. And so like I'm a RCSD student. It's not just my specific school. So that's actually what's behind our really cute t-shirts. I think Crystal's wearing one. Our RWC t-shirts signed by our, this is like now a fashion show, but like the whole spirit behind those t-shirts is to get that pride out in Redwood City and get it all across the district. So, and I don't know if everybody knows, but we actually donate sweatshirts back to the sites that we're serving, so that our goal is that just kids all over town and parents all over town are wearing those shirts. And so that's part of that community building and that vision of that abundance.
You're looking to Ravenswood as kind of a role model for that relationship between foundation and district. What should we as Redwood City School District be learning from that high quality partnership?
So something that we've observed with their role, I think it's, and Trustee Lee kind of alluded to it. It's like when we're building a compelling case for support, we want to build in, where do we come in? What are the strategies? What is the impact? What is the need? Because we know that there's a lot of need. And so how we're strategically aligning them and communicating them, I think it's a big part of trying to find those people who have big dollars, who want to come in here without, and this is key. It's like without really changing that understanding of the need. So we don't, and you'll hear me, you've probably heard me say this before, and you'll continue to hear me, we're not prescriptive. We want to really come in knowing and understanding and sharing, being those amplifiers of the community need in the Redwood City School District, and we don't necessarily want there to be a mismatch of what the dollars are available to do and what we actually need. So,
thank you so much.
The foundation has come a long ways. Look at the timeline that you have here in 1983. And I remember 1983 at Garfield School. And at that time, the foundation was giving teachers the opportunity to write little grants for what you needed in your classrooms or what types of projects. And look where you are today. This is amazingly different. The piece that I believe that Florence, you bring to the table, along with the rest of the foundation, is that you are working very closely with the school districts, and you're working very closely with the schools and the schools that you have identified with. You've taken our LCAP goals and you've intertwined them with what your goals and how you want to move things forward. The support here that I believe moving forward with the school district and with Dr. Rubalcaba coming on is definitely continuing the meetings, the monthly meetings, and understanding what you're doing with our school sites and how we really impact one another. And the other thing is to start thinking about there are grants out there that we can possibly connect together. But we want to get the grants that don't have all these strings on them,
Right.
like we've talked about, and then we're all left in these little silos. But my conversations with Dr. Rubalcaba is the possibility of what would you think of us moving forward with a grant writer and splitting the cost of that grant writer between the district and the foundation. That may help us both achieve what we are both looking for because we have the same vision. And working together, I think we can make it even larger than what it is right now. And as you said, Lily, to not only our schools that, have our duplicated students, but also the other school sites too, because there are those students at those school sites that are not on the Bayside, right? So
Love your creative thinking. As we want to be thinking outside the box, anywhere where we can like leverage resources, where we can really partner, that's where you're going to see the institutional change long term. Even just starting with like sharing, office space, like having, being able to interface not only between just superintendent, but also the other district leaders, the other principals. Just how do we kind of build all of that interface? So there's just so much opportunity.
thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
We have some little leave behinds for y'all. I'm gonna give you.
T-shirts? T-shirts?
Yeah.
Size large, man. Okay. Yeah.
The t-shirt. Where can you find a t-shirt?
The t-shirt, that's a great question. I'll send you guys the link.
We'll send you the link. You can custom, or you can order your own, your very own.
Yeah, there's different colors.
And there's different colors.
Ah, yeah.
Next presentation at the end, I want a QR code where it's like, get your T-shirt here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you so
time.
much. All right, we are now on to items the board must take action on. Our first action item is the final school report, followed by the SIPSA for Henry Ford.
Right. Good evening. All right. So good evening. I know trustees and Dr. Baker and my colleagues here. I am going to present on behalf of Ms. Sanchez of Henry Ford School, the Henry Ford School Report. So we're going to start with Goal 1, which you're now very familiar with, around our attendance and our suspensions. I'm just kind of go over that. Oh, so looking at the data for Henry Ford, and this is mid-year data, so it is not end of the year. So this is really reported in December, like all the other reports. And looking at Henry Ford's data of just attendance rate. And I do just want to note, I looked at their Power School Analytics today, and they're very close. At mid-year was reported at 94.4. And it ended in June at 94.5. So just a little shy of their goal, but a slight uptick right between December and June for their overall attendance rate. Want to go to the next slide. So chronic absenteeism, this is where Henry Ford is shining with their chronic absenteeism. And you can see quite a dip in the number of students who are chronically absent this past school year. Go to the next slide. And overall, I think it's similar to some of the other schools in our district. So overall, most subgroups having a decline in chronic absenteeism. The one where we do see a slight increase towards the end of the year is students with disabilities. But I'm sorry. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. It was chronic. We're on suspensions. Students with disabilities for suspensions. Sorry. So similar to the district trend of really having gone downward in their overall suspensions the last 2 years. And so minuscule little amounts. And I did talk to a principal, Jennifer Sanchez, that she recognizes the second half of the year, there were a few incidences across the site where there was a couple of suspensions, but they have been working on alternatives to suspension. So that's going to be the next slide in what are some of the takeaways. So for Henry Ford, the majority of the students are Hispanic Latino at Henry Ford. And noting that the fifth graders, their biggest subgroup, are very close or exceeding their overall school absentee rate, but similar to the rest of the district, TK is pretty low. So not even hitting 90% for TK. And Kinder is slightly higher, but TK was definitely in the grade where they really see a significant number of students in TK not coming to school on a consistent basis. Just like the rest of their peers, they use A2A to share the attendance letters, but they do at parent conferences, which we have the goal setting conference, and then in the spring conference, sharing those letters and absentee rates with the families to bring to their attention, like, hey, this is really important. So having that one-on-one meeting. So it's not just at the CES meetings, but also as kids are becoming chronically absent or starting to reach that threshold, meeting with parents to prevent the chronic absenteeism. They had 58 CES plans in total, hosted by their MTSS TOSA. And lots of phone calls. Ms. Sanchez said that between her, their office staff, and the TOSA, they make a lot of phone calls. They had one SARB hearing here at the district office. And one of the things that they have been doing, and will continue to do is monthly attendance awards. So in addition to they have character traits and they do some student recognition through PBIS, at those assemblies, they have attendance awards and make it into a little bit of a competition to see who can get the highest their rate up, so rate of improvement, and as well as higher rates overall. And so some kids are motivated by their competition, and so excited to participate in those attendance awards. So they're going to continue all of these actions in the area of attendance for next year. And then looking at suspensions, the takeaways and next steps for this year, the reflection, lots of team meetings, so MTSS team meetings. You can see who the partnerships that are on the MTSS meetings, their mental health specialists, the principal, teachers, counselors, office managers. But they also have a PBIS team. And the PBIS team does check in, check out. So to the best of their ability, teachers, not as much, but they have identified adults on campus who are able to independently outside of class be able to do a check-in and check-out with students who may be at risk with some of the behaviors in class to make sure that they are doing the positive reinforcement and teaching of behaviors before they can escalate. And they have lots of social emotional programming happening on site. Project Cornerstone, it's a parent program. Parents are trained and they do some the parent volunteers do some lessons within the classroom. Choose Love is their SEL curriculum at Henry Ford. They have calming corners and allocated space in their classroom. And they have a site counselor in addition to a One Life counselor that works with students either doing lunch bunch, identified individual counseling, group counseling, and will also push into the classrooms to model community circles for the teachers in the classroom. They're year 2 of working with San Mateo County Office of Ed for PBIS, and they have a school-wide Mustang ticket incentive program recognizing students for their 3 PBIS values of safe, responsible, and respectful. So all adults, yard duty, office staff, custodian, along with the teaching staff, recognizing students with their Mustang tickets. And then also their monthly character trait awards. And that's something that Ms. Sanchez is rolling out that's a little bit new. Different character traits, honesty, integrity, perseverance, and recognizing those characteristics, one characteristic a month, and then recognizing them at their monthly assembly. In suspensions, they're working really hard with alternative to suspensions to keep the students in school whenever possible. So they have a couple of different activities that they do with students. If students maybe are not in their classroom, but maybe in the office or in an alternative place for the day or part of the day or a period of the day, there are some lessons that the adults will do with the students on proactive behavior, making better choices, and some reflection. And in addition, the mental health people on site do check in and check out with students who have been identified by the MTSS team that need an extra adult besides the classroom teacher to give them a little push and an incentive and support them. And then their area where they're going to not focus for next year. It's actually not next year. They just did it this week. They just participated this week, a team from Henry Ford on restorative practices with the San Mateo County Office of Education. And so several of our teachers from Henry Ford and across the district just did some of that training. And goal two, my goal. So around English learners. And next slide, looking at the progress of our Henry Ford's English learners. So LPAC progress is measuring growth from one level to another, from level 1 to 4. And this area is an area of growth for Henry Ford students. They did not make the one level growth on the LPAC. From their base year to expected outcome. We'll find out soon, everybody, our district-wide goals, and as well as each site will find out their goals soon as LPAC scores are coming fully to be released in the very near future. We have a lot of data already, but we're not 100%. Scores are not released. But reclassification rate is where Henry Ford is really shining. You could see a huge growth of 10%. More students reclassified, 10% more English learners reclassified and changed their status from English learner to fluent English proficient. So while we have areas to grow in for sure at Henry Ford in overall levels, the reclassification rate is an area that has been a great success for Henry Ford students and staff. So actions and then next steps. So Henry Ford's teachers, like their colleagues, have daily ELD. Their teachers group by grade level with the similar LPAC levels, and then the students are with their peers for a designated period of time based on their performance, either on LPAC or, since we are doing benchmark assessments, you're not intended to stay at the same level the entire year if your benchmark is showing that you're making progress. And of course, there's teacher observation data that kids can move up into the next grouping as they make progress. LPAC test prep throughout the year, so not just a boot camp. Boot camp is great, and I think it helps with some of those strategies right before LPAC, but being really intentional of doing some test prep all throughout the year to prepare the students for this very high stakes test. And Henry Ford funds a bilingual instructional assistant for their students from grades K to 5, for students who have been identified as newcomers or students maybe who have no longer qualified in the newcomer status, but who are, maybe 1 or 2 years out and still need additional support with language development. So continuing with all of their strategies, but including in their PLC work, cycles of ELD and looking at the language proficiency and how they're doing on their benchmark assessments as their team meets. And then they're going to also be looking considerations for special grade level considerations for combination classes. And then goal 3 of our students making progress towards proficiency and making annual growth in English language arts and math is measured by iReady and our CASP scores. So in iReady, English language arts, you could see overall, you see a lot of growth from fall to winter with some really big gains in the percent of students who have reached proficiency as measured by iReady, and a big decrease in the percent of students who are 2 or more years below grade level. So that's definitely something for Henry Ford to celebrate, is their iReady growth from fall to winter. And the next slide, similarly, is just a repeat of the data that you could see that they've made some good growth, is looking at math. So also made some good gains in math, and Principal Jennifer Sanchez wants to make sure that she knows that she's very proud of her teachers and the work and the focus that they have done in the area of math, and the growth that they've seen in their overall scores. And again, looking at the percent of decreasing the number and percent of students who were 2 or more years below grade level. And then just looking again in a table view of the difference of growth that students have made in iReady on math. And now looking at CASP. So this is a focus on English learners as one of our major subgroups and one of our LCAP goals and SIPSA goals. We can see that this is an area of growth for Henry Ford, is increasing the percent of English learners who are reaching proficiency in English language arts. So while overall we see iReady scores, overall all students are making good growth, you can see that there's still a need to continue the focus on our English learners in English language arts. And similarly, math, showing very similar data where, again, overall, the school is doing really well based on the iReady scores, but our English learner subgroup, the major subgroup, is still needing continued focus in making progress towards proficiency in mathematics as well as English language arts. So goals and actions. So for Henry Ford, they have a full-time reading intervention specialist who works with K2 students, and she saw 87 students in 6-week cycles. So their intervention cycles are measured by 6 weeks. Of those 87 students, 55 of those students participated in 2 cycles, and 28 exited completely out of intervention, showing that they no longer needed intervention. This is measured by the basic phonics skills test, the BPST. So that's great that we've seen that much movement in students moving from one level to another. And they're going to continue with their reading intervention specialist for next year. After school tutoring, they have a Healthy Cities partnership that serves a few of their students, but as well, they have teachers working small group instruction, weekly grade level planning time. So she has carved out some time so that teachers are meeting together to look at student work and look at student progress and their data and next steps. In addition, they have worked with an instructional coach on their site in integrated ELD. And they had some work during their PLC time where they looked at a focus in writing throughout the year, and they've really focused on a vertical alignment of having the grade levels 3 through 5 meet with each other to understand what are the standards that each grade level needed, and then what's the grade level standard above and what's the grade level standard below, so that they were all working towards the same goal. And their K2 in their PLC work was working on foundational skills. And teams were working through the screen team meeting to measure their SMART goals and see if students had been making progress. The students that were identified via the SST process had been making SMART goals, because we don't want SST to continue forever and ever. Once they're in a student study team, the idea is that kids make those goals, and then the interventions are in place, they're successful, and no longer need to continue on a SST process. The MTSS TOSA held 52 SSTs, that's quite high. So looking at their students through a lens of interventions prior to getting to SSTs is a goal for next year. They have a TK teacher who was able to support with differentiated instruction and reducing some of the second graders during small targeted time by taking a group. And next year, they're going to continue to work as in a PLC group, and they're going to have their focus be with math. And they are going to be doing a book study with UDL math. That's going to be next year, and continue with instructional coaching and planning with CRLP, the California Reading Institute, with a focus on reading comprehension and integrated ELD practices. feel like I said that really fast.
Fantastic. Bravo. Thank you so much for presenting.
Thank you. You're welcome. My pleasure. All right. You guys.
Take it back. Other trustees, do you have
I'll
questions?
start. Thanks, Catherine.
You're not done yet. Get back here.
Are you turning off the mic and then I was like, okay, you're done. Okay.
But no, I just wanted to say thank you for presenting on Henry Ford on their SIPSA tonight and how they've done over the past year. And I want to thank the Henry Ford staff and community. I know some of them are online tonight listening to the presentation, so really appreciate that. Again, we've seen this in a lot of schools. So I think we've talked about this before. As a board member, it's been really interesting to see the same format for all of the school presentations because you really start to see these trends around chronic absenteeism. Henry Ford did a great job with that. And a lot of our school sites have done that as well. And so really being able to see that improvement there. We're now the reclassification data is already a year old, so I'm really excited to see what the next one is. But actually, that was a remarkable increase that they had the year before, and it's really weird that it's kind of juxtaposed against the decrease in LPAC growth. And again, on last year's data, the CASP showing that our English learners, our emerging multilanguage learners, we're still not necessarily meeting their academic goals. So it'd be really again, it'll be interesting to see how it goes this year with all the changes that have been put in, the language power, again, reusing language power, the designated ELD time, and that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what we get out of that this year. And then, iReady is showing that this year has gone pretty well and seeing that growth. So I appreciated seeing that. So it's a testament to the work that is happening at this school. And thank you again for presenting it.
Same as Mike on a lot of fronts, a lot of positive things there, which is great to see, and the consistency right across many of the goals. I did actually want to dig a little bit deeper, and thank you for drawing this straw. I know Anna did the last one, but appreciate the team effort that the whole district comes together for. It's on one hand, it seems like there's a pretty consistent story through the data on the growth areas, which is it seems like there was a drop in the LPAC scores, and that obviously trickled down to the CASP as well. And I know it's a year old, but do we know, like, is there a story behind kind of what caused it? Because it's just, again, juxtaposed against a lot of the other schools where we saw tremendous growth. Do we know what happened, or is there some story behind that?
I don't know about a story behind it, but I don't think I could name one specific thing that why the English learners didn't make their goals in both ELA and math or on the LPAC. But I do know we do have less English learners overall as we are reclassifying more students in the last few years. And the rate, I don't know if Jenny's talked about this, but the rate of reclassification of English learners, you're simply just taking, there's no one formula across the district. It's all of you figure it out and do it on your own and see what you want to use as a rate. We're simply taking the number of English learners divided by how many are meeting the criteria to reclassify, and that is becoming what's the rate. But I don't know if that's actually the best way to measure reclassification rates.
I'll be totally honest. I have questions about.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just going to see so much variance depending on if we get newcomers or.
Yeah.
So, but it is great to see high rates because I think we have to be doing something right there.
Yeah.
But low rates there's just a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
So it sounds like on the LPAC progress, there's not one specific thing that we saw that we can point to, but
I think there's a number of elements, like maybe I know that we've increased the number of duly identified students at Henry Ford over the last few years. That can have an impact. Is that the impact? It can have an impact when you have more duly identified students. We do see our district-wide data that duly identified students do have more obstacles to reclassify compared to students who are not duly identified. I don't want to say that's 100%, but we do see that in our data that it perhaps that's one piece of the puzzle of why.
Okay, so it looks like there was a number of interventions or additional supports for ELs this current year.
Yeah.
So I imagine let's just throw maybe not the kitchen sink, but let's take on lots of approaches. Is that kind of the
Yeah,
thinking?
and,
Okay.
and what's exciting is next week, not
I
today,
know.
in a week,
I'm on the edge of my seat.
I'll be back up here, and then Ann and I get to share a little bit more about what we're doing district-wide, which will encompass Henry Ford. That's maybe not necessarily in this specific plan. That'll talk about some of the additional work and focus and highlighting English learners in the district.
Got it. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again. I don't want to repeat everything that they both said, but with the English learners in mind, I do want to say Rick and I were at the Henry Ford graduation, and one of their students, which obviously I wouldn't know if she was reclassified or not, and I forget what her name was, but she's only been in this country since October of 2025, and she gave a wonderful speech in English. And so those are the things that we need to,
Highlight.
look out for.
Yeah.
And that one student did wonders, and she like loves to read. And I mean, I was like, I got goosebumps. I don't know about you, but it was,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is why I'm a board member, because it like filled my heart. Like it was such a touching story to read her. She came to this country and she's speaking English, right? I mean, it brought me back memories, even though it took me a little longer to learn English, but it was wonderful. So I just want to say, sometimes we don't see it, but they're there, right?
Yeah.
We have many English learners that have different barriers. Again, like we were just talking about RCF, that is why they, do what they do. And so we just have to think positive. And again, I will continue to say the needle is moving. Sometimes it doesn't move as fast, but there's certain people that have trauma. There's lots of things happening in their households. And so just that one student just made a big difference. And obviously, the staff at Henry Ford makes a difference because they actually helped her. And I'm sure like they're helping everybody else that we don't actually see. So I think it's wonderful. Again, just like all other schools, things are, shifting in a direction. Maybe they're not meeting the percentage, but one day
Yeah.
we will see it. So
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, as my fellow trustees have said, a lot of the core needles and things that really matter are moving in the right direction here around suspensions, around attendance, around ELA and math iReady progress. And so like that's really great to see.
I just want to thank Anna and Catherine for bringing it
Yes.
forward tonight and allowing the board to react and move forward, and thank the Henry Ford staff for all that they've been doing.
Thank you both. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Henry Ford teachers too, and staff for all they do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Would somebody
I
like
would like
to
to make a
move
motion to approve the SIPSA for Henry Ford.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Yeah, so I had that one coming. All right. 13.2, we trustees are all elected officials and accountable to you, the public. Our terms are for 4 years with no term limits. Two of us have our terms expiring this year in areas 2 and area 5. This is a procedural item to call for an election of those 2 seats as required by statute. Eligible candidates have to live within the given trustee area. The maps are on our website. Somebody like to move that we approve this resolution?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Great. And now for resolution 28 around establishing a tax rate for bonds.
Good evening, board members, and Blake will be joining us as well. I saw him online. Resolution 28 relates to the potential issuance of the next series of Measure S bonds. The resolution before you tonight is a routine step that requests San Mateo County establish the tax rate necessary to support the repayment of those bonds if issued. So I want to make it clear the action tonight does not issue bonds or authorize the issuance of bonds. It authorizes a necessary step in the process should the board decide to proceed with the next series of Measure S funds at some point during the 26-27 school year. To discuss details and ask any very specific questions of the process, I'd like to turn this over to Blake Boehm from KNN, who is our municipal advisor, who I think all of you are familiar with. So with that, Blake, was there anything you'd like to add to, or if there's any questions from the board?
Well, thanks, Rick, and good evening. It's good to see many of you again. It's been a little bit. Just as a reminder, back in 2022, voters approved Measure S for a tax rate of $24 per 100,000. The bonds that were authorized was 298 million. The first series was sold a little over 6 months after voters approved it back in June of 2023. The district issued the first 90 million. The way that that first series of bonds was structured was to encompass or encumber that $24 tax rate for the first 3 years after it was approved. And then the bonds were structured to have a much lower, the first series, a much lower repayment thereafter. And so we've hit that 3-year mark. So in the absence of this resolution, the tax rate for Measure S would drop pretty notably. And then there would be, so for the next tax roll, the 26, 27 taxes, taxpayers would see a big drop, then the bonds would be sold, and then the tax rate would jump back up to the $24 tax rate level. And that volatility tends to create a lot of questions and problems and confusion within the taxpayer community. It also, kind of having that drop off, would create a less efficient repayment stream of money for this Series B bonds, which are anticipated to be sold in the next fiscal year. So the recommendation is for the board to approve this resolution, which is really requesting the county to levy a tax which would account for the anticipated debt service for the Series B bonds, even though they're not issued yet. They are expected to be issued in the next fiscal year. And that way we have stabilization with the taxes. We have immediate resources to start paying down that next series of bonds as soon as they're sold. And it creates just a more efficient program as a whole. So that's really the resolution on the agenda for tonight.
Thank you. Do trustees have any questions about this? Nope. Sounds like this is mostly procedural and important to do. So would somebody like to move we approve this resolution?
I make a motion.
A second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. All right. Now for resolution 29 around year-end budget transfers.
Thanks, Blake. Good evening again. Resolution 29 is another procedural resolution, our annual year-end budget transfer resolution. It's a housekeeping item that allows us to make technical budget adjustments necessary to close the books after June 30th. It does not approve any new spending or change district priorities. It simply gives staff in the county office the authority to make the accounting entries needed to align expenditures with actual year-end activity, which will be reflected in the unaudited actual report that comes to the board in September. With that, staff recommends approval of this item.
Okay. Any other questions for Rick? Nope. All right.
Very procedural. I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you, Rick. Okay. Now for resolution number 30 around temporary interfund borrowing.
Another procedural item. It allows us to temporarily move cash between district funds if needed to cover timing differences between revenues received. It's not a bank loan. It does not create any additional debt and doesn't increase spending. As we go through this, any amounts transferred must be repaid as required by law. We don't anticipate needing it and haven't used it in the last several years, but this resolution gives us the flexibility to address any short-time cash flow issues that may arise during year-end close. And with that, we recommend approval.
Thank you. Any questions on this resolution?
Another annual action that we take, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, it passes. And we're on to 14, consent. As has been typical for our last couple of meetings, we have a large number of items on our consent agenda here, many of which are board policies, but also some other things. On the raft of policies, we're working through a backlog of about 200 policies that need to be updated to be fully compliant with the state. I think now maybe I can say we are most of the way through them. Yeah, okay. I'm going to say close to 50%. Okay. A lot of work from policy committee and staff, so shout out to them for this. One other thing that's in here that by definition gets glossed over is the warrant registers. It's literally all of our expenditures. I know school finance can be a lot to wrap one's head around. I still feel like I'm coming down a learning curve here on the fourth year on the job, but literally every single penny spent by the district is publicly accounted for in a matter of public record. It's all there. As a reminder, just because something is in our consent agenda does not mean it is not important. It just means that we may have already reviewed it or it's unobjectionable and we'd like to focus our limited time together on substantive matters requiring presentation and discourse. Any board member at the change of agenda segment of the meeting can request that an item be pulled from consent to discuss. And with that preface, would somebody like to move that we approve our consent items?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. And we're on to board and superintendent reports.
I can start. I'm sure we're all going to have very similar ones. Attended the induction ceremony at Henry Ford. It was a very nice ceremony to see the first year promotion and the second year graduates. Although I think one was 3 years, but yes, it was congratulations. And then attended 3 graduations, Adelante Selby, MIT, and Taft. They were all wonderful. The principals do such a great job of putting those together for their families and their students, of course. The student speakers, Cecilia mentioned the one that she saw earlier. It's remarkable just to hear them, especially, I mean, at all grades, just the confidence that they get up there and they're able to speak with. At McKinley, it was just really just a reminder of just how deeply personal their experience was at MIT and how much they got out of the community. It was just, it's always a great experience to hear it. It's really neat to see them get up there and talk about it.
Thank you.
I attended the Roy Cloud graduation, and thank you to my fellow trustees for filling in on the other ones that I couldn't make. But agreed with what both Mike and Cecilia mentioned is like the highlight of the year. Love the various student speeches, and just a lot of clear community that has been built through the school that's continuing to be there. And I love the general message. I think the theme of this year is the best way to predict the future is to create it, which is just a lovely message, which is great.
Fantastic. Cecilia?
Same induction program celebration, which was great. Attended the North Star, Clifford, Henry Ford, and Kennedy graduations. Again, lovely speeches from the students. Clifford had 3 valedictorian and 2 salutatorian students, and so that was wonderful. Again, Henry Ford, the student I spoke to you guys about earlier. And then there was another student that said, they were 5th graders, so they were talking about like they came in and they were online during COVID. And so one of them said she didn't want to come to school. And if it wasn't for I forget if it was her kinder teacher that literally held her by the hand. So she thanked that teacher and, just the wonderful experiences that they've had all along. And again, how wonderful the teachers and the staff are at every school. Kennedy, of course, is a really big school. And so there was lots of awards. There was awards at North Star and Clifford as well. And then they also recognize Ms. Leonardo for her amazing work at Kennedy. And so it was wonderful.
Wonderful. Thank you. I attended a pair of graduation ceremonies as well at Roosevelt, where it was amazing to hear stories of people who came to this country and received an incredible education. Were excited to be moving on to the next chapter of their educational careers. And at Orion, where it was pretty neat, there were 3 separate languages on stage as people talked in Spanish and English and Mandarin as well. And so it's really neat to see that kind of trilingual glimpse of the future, and we could hope for supporting more trilingualism in the district. So, met with CZI along with Christian and Jessica Shade to learn more about their history with the school district, their new strategic direction, and sort of to open up a conversation about different ways to work together. And they are partnered very closely with RCEF, who we heard from tonight. And so they've done a bunch of grant making there, but they're open to certain partnerships with the district. So we're just beginning that conversation. So excited about that. I updated rcsd.info to now have all of the district policies translated into Spanish and searchable and nice and easy to access. So if you're ever curious about our school district's policies, you can easily navigate them at rcsd.info. Not an official website. Dr. Baker.
Also attended promotion exercises and graduations at Hoover, Orion, Kennedy, and definitely at Kennedy. Miss Chandra Leonardo is going to be well missed. Students were, don't leave, Miss Leonardo, don't leave, don't leave. And, always clapping for her and so forth as she was speaking. And the speeches that were given at each of the school sites were amazing. The one at Hoover, the student had only been with us for 2 years, fluent. And Catherine's did it in English fluently and in Spanish, and it was amazing to hear. Orion, of course, we had the 3 languages, which was fantastic. And at Kennedy, the speeches were amazing also by the students, and also thanking Chandra for everything that she had done. And the one comment was, Ms. Leonardo knows everything. She knows our names. You can't hide anything from her. So they were great. It was just fantastic.
Thank you so much. And with that, we are on to information. Looks like the cash the county holds for us earned 4.14% last in the month of April. Nothing else to note there. We're on to correspondence. Any correspondence of note people want to share? Okay. We're on to other business, suggested items for future agendas. Anything there? No. Okay. Meeting reflection. How did tonight go?
It was good.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much to say beyond that. I thought it went,
Yep.
went well.
Right. So sometimes there's a lot to say in this segment. Sometimes they're not as good. We don't have to talk for 10 minutes. All good. Cool. All right. Meeting calendar. So we do have a 6:20 p.m. start
So
for this.
that June 17th, this was added on last Friday, but that's being canceled. It's being pushed to June 24th, and you will get an updated calendar invite.
Thank you. You're awesome, Evelyn. I unfortunately will not be able to be here next week. So Cecilia will be presiding. Yeah. Okay. No other changes than that to note. We're on to adjournment. Oh,
I will move to
yeah.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. Meeting's over. Thanks, everybody.